Shalom guys, welcome back to another episode. This one is a special one. We're going to talk about Passover. At YASHAV Ministries, Casa de Israel. Like I always say, subscribe, like. This is a special episode. We're going to talk about Easter, Passover, or Pesach. Let's get started. So, we're either going to talk about Easter, Pesach, or Passover. Easter is not biblically established, meaning that Easter is not in the Bible. It's not a feast or a festival or a holy convocation that God appointed. It is a creation of men. Obviously, not to disrespect or to diminish anybody, but if we go to the Bible, there's no such thing as Easter. But there is a such thing as the Exodus, the Passover, which was called to be a remembrance from the exit of Egypt, from when Elohim smited Egypt's firstborn. Okay, so we're going to go to Exodus, read it, and then we're going to go into the New Testament and see if Yeshua kept Easter or Passover and understand why we celebrate this. Okay, so Exodus 12 says the following. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, "This month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the years for you. Tell all the congregation of Israel that on the 10th day of this month every man shall take the lamb according to their father's house, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for a lamb, then he and his nearest neighbor shall take according to the number of the person, according to what each can eat. You shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male 1 year old. You may take it from the sheep and from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the month. And when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill their lamb at twilight, then they shall take one of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and the lintel of the house which they eat. And they shall eat the flesh at that night, roasted the fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They shall eat it. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roast it, its head with its legs and the inner parts. And you shall let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning you shall burn. In this manner you shall eat it. With your belt fasten, your sandals on your feet, and your staff on your hand. You shall eat it at haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt at night, and I will strike all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for you on the house where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day you shall be for you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations, a statute forever. You shall keep it as a feast. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the first day you shall remove leaven out of your homes. For if anyone eats what is leavened from the first day until the 7th day, the person shall be cut off from Israel. And the first day you shall hold a holy assembly, and on the 7th day a holy assembly. No work shall be done on those days, but what everyone needs to eat, that alone may be prepared by you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For on this day I brought your host out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as a statute forever. In the first month of the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until 20th first day of the month at evening. For 7 days no leaven is to be found on your houses. Anyone eats what is leavened, that person will be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a sojourner or native in the land. You shall not eat anything with leaven in all your dwelling places. You shall eat unleavened bread. So this is why we observe the Passover. It's a commandment by Elohim. It's a command, right? Forever. Now you can say, that is for the Jewish people, that's only for Israel. Well, the Bible is only established for Israel, right? They are the chosen people. Now, through Yeshua, we have access to this kingdom. Now, let's read what Yeshua kept in Luke chapter 22, verse 7 through 13. It says, "Then came the day of unleavened bread, in which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. So Yeshua sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare the Passover for us that we may eat it. They said to him, Where would you have us prepare it? And he said to them, Behold, When you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him until into the house that he enters, and tell the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room furnished, prepared there. And they went and found it just as he had told them, and prepared the Passover. Verse 14 says, and when the hour came, he reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. And he said to them, I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it until it is fulfilled, the kingdom of God. And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he said, this is, and I divided it among yourselves. For I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of Elohim comes. And he took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And likewise the cup after they had eaten, saying, this cup is poured out for you, is the new covenant in my blood. But behold, the hand of him who betrayed me is with me on the table. For the Son of Man goes as it has been determined, but woe to the man by whom he had been betrayed. And they began to question one another, which of them could be who was doing this. Passover was kept by Jesus. Jesus understood that this was a commandment forever. The Passover represented the steps for him to grant not only his people salvation, but the nation's salvation. Right? It is understood that on Passover, the lamb was kept, or were kept, in Belen, right? This is where Yeshua was born, Jesus. And so this is where the pastors will be. So the sheep were nourished and kept in Belen. And so once they were ready to be offered on the Passover, the priests will go and bring that lamb so that it can be slaughtered and offered on the altar for Passover. Yeshua, coincidentally enough, was in Belen before he made his triumphal entrance into the city. This sheep was supposed to be inspected. It was supposed to be perfect. It was supposed to be prepared in 3 days. Make sure that it had no defects. It had no parts where it was imperfect. It had to be a perfect lamb so it could be offered for Pesach or Passover. Yeshua, the same way, as he entered, for 3 days he was examined. He was tested by the leaders of the congregation, by the Sadducees, the Pharisees. Yeshua, our Messiah, was tested by everybody. He was found unblemished. He was found pure and perfect. He represented us correctly. He represented us. And he said that, woe to those that betrayed him. Woe to those that dishonor his name. Understand that we keep Passover because Yeshua kept Passover, because Yeshua, through this feast, reflected our salvation and gave us access. One of the most beautiful and most impacting words from what I just read, for me personally, when I learned this, was that he is eating unleavened bread. And so unleavened bread is eaten because, one, they didn't have time to let the bread rise when they were getting out of Egypt, because they had to be ready to go, right? Sandals fastened and staff on your hand, you have to be ready to go because they had to get out of there quickly. But also, leaven represented sin, and there is some positive connotations to leaven also, but majority of the context of leaven is from sin. And so they ate unleavened bread and he does this image of his body being the bread, and they were eating unleavened bread. He was letting us know that he was found pure to be offered, that he was free of sin, that through him we will have access. Through him we will have the opportunity to get to know what is Passover. Many notes that I have here, and about the Seder, about the Haggadah that is done by the Jewish people, the 4 cups that they drink. But understand this, that in the Bible there's a Passover, there's a Pesach, there's a memorial. We cannot do it the way that they did it because there's no temple. And so we remember that moment, because on Passover the people of Israel were delivered, but also on Passover Yeshua, our Messiah, opened the doors for his people to come back and for us as a nation to accept Elohim's covenant, to accept Elohim's commandments, to accept Elohim's kingdom. The Bible is one. Let's take our time to read it. With this small clip, understand something very simple. The only thing that we're trying to do is promote Elohim's kingdom, promote his word, promote his order. There's only one book. From Genesis to Revelation, the foundation of this book is the Torah and the order and the heart of Elohim. So let's do our due diligence. Let's make sure we read up and study his word and get to know his heart. I hope you guys have a great Passover. Have a beautiful week. Shavua Tov. Check out the Shabbat teaching. Have a great Shabbat. Thank you.